Ladies and gentlemen, envision a congressional hearing room pulsing with electric suspense, where a hardened intelligence veteran squares off against a charismatic progressive icon in a confrontation that uncovers the core of American integrity and power. On one side stands Kash Patel, the resolute former security official whose unyielding quest for facts draws from years battling threats in the shadows of national defense. On the other sits Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the bold democratic socialist whose rise from humble roots and impassioned calls for equality have inspired a movement against systemic injustice. What ensues isn't mere theater, it's a profound dissection of principles that lays bare whether lofty words can shield inconsistent deeds in our divided republic. This tale will grip you from the outset, probing your beliefs about accountability and influence, and urging you to question if our representatives truly embody the ideals they proclaim. Stay locked in, because as this unfolds, you'll witness how one stack of evidence can dismantle a narrative and fuel a nationwide reckoning on who genuinely serves the public. As an experienced analyst of U.S. politics, with years unraveling Washington showdowns, I've observed exchanges that alter trajectories, but this imagined face-off between Kash Patel and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez epitomizes masterful scrutiny versus steadfast ideology like none other. You'll be engrossed as we dissect each element with my equitable perspectives on their impulses. The hearing space went quiet, save for the gentle whir of C-SPAN recorders. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez positioned at the witness spot, cosmetics streaked, palms quivering on the wooden exterior. Behind her, one of the squad associates collected her documents and rose. The grind of her seat resonated. She headed toward the doorway without glancing rearward. The devices recorded it all. Kash Patel's tone was soft, lethally soft. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you earn $174,000 annually. You've gathered $17 million since your election. Your grandmother resides in a home with a dripping ceiling in Puerto Rico. It requires $5,000 to repair. He halted, allowing the figures to suspend in the atmosphere. Why didn't you simply repair it? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez parted her lips. Nothing emerged. She attempted once more. Still nothing. The quiet extended 10 seconds, 15, 20. A journalist in the rear line murmured to his partner. The mic captured it. She's got nothing. Kash Patel shut his file. The noise was conclusive. The Rayburn House office structure had a distinct aroma on session days, ancient stone blended with brew and nervousness. The third-level hallway was already packed by 9:30 in the morning. Aides gripping preparation binders, journalists testing gear. Visitors squeezed against the plush barriers, hoping to spot someone renowned. Inside session room 2154, the arrangement was nearly finished. Name tags organized on the platform. Liquid containers filled. The testifier spot placed precisely 14 feet from the panel. Near enough for clash. Distant enough to preserve the pretense of courtesy. Kash Patel reached at 9:45. He donned a navy outfit that his mom had urged he purchase from Brooks Brothers. "You're appearing before Congress," she'd stated on the call that morning. "Not questioning smugglers in Brooklyn." She still fretted over him, still verified that he was consuming correctly, resting sufficiently, not laboring too intensely. Old patterns from when they'd dwelled in that one room in Garden City, when his dad labored doubles at the vehicle cellar and she took additional care shifts at the clinic. When 13-year-old Kash learned at the kitchen surface while they tallied expenses, trying to determine how to cover his braces. The American vision, they'd termed it, and somehow, improbably, it had provided. He placed his case on the testifier surface, opened it with the meticulous accuracy his dad had instructed him about structure. Everything in its location. Everything marked. 4 files color organized, each holding papers that had been confirmed 3 times. Financial statements, FEC submissions, legislative evidence, social network records. 15 years as a national accuser had instructed him that matters were secured before you stepped into the courtroom. You didn't improvise it. You didn't depend on charm or feeling. You constructed the proof barrier stone by stone, until there was nowhere left to conceal. Today's barrier was very sturdy. The panel associates began trickling in, Republicans claiming their positions on the right side of the platform, Democrats on the left. Greetings swapped, murmured discussions with aides, the typical dance of legislative supervision. Then the vigor in the space shifted. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez emerged in the entrance at 10:07, 17 minutes delayed, which was actually prompt by her norms. She wore a burgundy jacket over a cream top, her signature red lip color flawlessly applied. Her lead aide followed behind, managing an iPad, a device, and what appeared like a Starbucks container. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez halted at the entrance. Not because she needed to locate her position, the testifier surface was evident, but because she knew how to operate a space, how to let the devices locate her, how to generate an instant. She drew out her device, angled it for the over-the-shoulder image that had become her hallmark, the Capitol Dome, somewhere in the backdrop. Her thumbs dashed across the display. 30 seconds later, the Instagram tail went live. An image of her striding into the session space. The caption, "Here we go again, another political witch hunt, they're scared of us," a heart symbol, a lifted fist. By the time she claimed her position, the post had 40,000 likes. She didn't look at Kash Patel, didn't recognize his presence. She was occupied murmuring to her lead aide, who was displaying her something on the iPad, probably social network metrics. She grinned at whatever she observed. Kash Patel observed her settle in, observed her tweak the mic, check her device one more time, project the assurance of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. She had no idea what was about to occur. The panel leader gave the session to order. 3 sharp taps that made a few visitors leap. The panel will come to order. This supervision session on legislative morals and campaign funding will now commence. The typical formalities followed. Introductory remarks from panel associates. The Republicans expressing concern about the troubling pattern of campaign funding irregularities. The Democrats defending their associate with talk of partisan assaults and political theater. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat through it with the expression of someone only half listening. She'd heard it all before. The accusations, the defenses, the back and forth. It always ended the same way. She'd post a defiant tweet. Her backers would rally, and the news cycle would move on. This time would be different. The leader turned to Kash Patel. "Mr. Patel, you've been sworn in. You may present your findings to the panel." Kash Patel opened his first file. The blue one. Campaign funding. "Thank you, Mr. Leader." His tone was calm, measured. The tone of someone who'd testified in national court more times than he could count. "I'd like to start with a simple question." He looked directly at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for the first time. "Representative Ocasio-Cortez, can you tell the panel about Riley Roberts?" Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Just for a second. Riley is a friend. I'm not sure what that has to do with..." Riley Roberts received payments from your campaign. Kash Patel slid a document across the surface toward her. $6,000 per month, $72,000 per year, for 2 years. Can you tell us what he did to earn that money? The whispers started in the audience. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's lead aide leaned in, murmured something urgent. She waved him away. Riley provided consulting services. Campaign strategy. It's standard practice. Standard practice. Kash Patel nodded slowly. He pulled out another document. According to your FEC submissions, his job description is listed as support services, not strategy support. Can you explain the difference? It's a general term. He helped with various aspects of the campaign, various aspects. Kash Patel wrote something in his notes. The sound of his pen on paper was loud in the suddenly quiet space. Can you name one specific thing he did? A report he wrote, a strategy he developed, a meeting he attended. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez shifted in her position. I don't have his specific deliverables in front of me. Neither do I. Kash Patel's tone stayed level. Because I requested them. All work product from Mr. Roberts during the period he was being paid $72,000 of campaign donor money. Your campaign provided 0 documents, 0 emails, 0 reports, 0 evidence that he did any work at all. The whispers got louder. A Democratic panel member tried to interrupt. Mr. Leader, this is beyond the scope. The scope, Kash Patel continued, his eyes never leaving Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is campaign funding violations. Federal law requires that campaign expenditures be used for legitimate campaign purposes. If Mr. Roberts did no work, then those payments weren't campaign expenses. They were personal expenses paid with campaign funds, which is illegal. He pulled out more documents. A flowchart this time, simple enough for everyone to follow. But the payments to your boyfriend were just the beginning. Let's talk about Saikat Chakrabarti, your former lead aide. He controlled 2 political action committees, Justice Democrats and Brand New Congress. During 2019, these organizations moved over $1 million between various entities. Kash Patel laid out the documents in sequence, like cards in a poker hand. March 15th, your campaign transfers $18,880 to Justice Democrats. April 2nd, Justice Democrats pays $15,000 to a consulting firm called Lynx Strategies. April 10th, Lynx Strategies pays $12,000 to an individual contractor. He looked up. Riley Roberts again. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's face flushed. That's your mischaracterizing this pattern. Repeats 17 times. Money from your campaign to the PAC, to a consulting firm, to individuals connected to your organization. We call this money laundering. Representative. Moving funds through multiple entities to obscure their true destination. A Republican panel member jumped in. Mr. Patel, have there been complaints filed about these transactions? Yes, Congressman. The FEC has received multiple complaints from campaign funding watchdog groups. Those complaints remain unresolved. Kash Patel pulled out one more document. Federal Election Campaign Act, Section 432. Quote, no person shall make a contribution in the name of another person. End quote. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you moved money through shell organizations to obscure who was really being paid. That violates this statute. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried to pivot. Her tone rose, taking on that passionate tone that played so well on Instagram. This is exactly what's wrong with politics. I'm being attacked for fighting for working people while corporate PACs. We're not talking about corporate PACs. Kash Patel's tone cut through. Not louder, just sharper. We're talking about your campaign. Your lead aide, your boyfriend, your donors gave money thinking you'd use it to fight corruption. Instead, you used it to pay your boyfriend for work he didn't do. He leaned back in his position. Let that sink in. I worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. I prosecuted campaign funding violations. Cases just like this. People have gone to prison for less egregious conduct. The only difference between them and you is that you have 3 million Instagram followers. The space was completely silent now. Even the journalists had stopped typing. So I'll ask you one more time, Representative. Either you knew about these illegal transfers and you're corrupt, or you didn't know and you're incompetent. Which is it? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez parted her lips, closed it, tried a different approach. I was new to politics. I relied on advisors. Saikat Chakrabarti wasn't new to politics. He knew exactly what he was doing. And you signed the FEC forms. Your signature. Your responsibility. Kash Patel closed the blue file, opened the red one. Campaign funding violations are serious, Representative. But what you did to your family, that's something else entirely. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's expression changed. Confusion mixed with the beginning of real fear. Let's talk about your grandmother. The change in Kash Patel's tone was subtle but unmistakable. Less accuser, more personal. Like he was genuinely trying to understand something that didn't make sense. You call her abuela, correct? Yes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tone was cautious now. June 1st, 2021, you posted on Twitter about her house in Puerto Rico. 13 tweets. I have them here. He pulled them up on a tablet, showed them to the panel. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the photos pointing to a damaged roof, water-stained walls, the visible aftermath of Hurricane Maria 3 years later. The thread went viral, over 100,000 retweets. You blamed the Trump administration, Republican neglect, FEMA failures. You wrote, "She's living in these conditions," end quote. Kash Patel's tone softened even more. I'm sure that was difficult, seeing your grandmother living like that, wanting people to understand what was happening in Puerto Rico. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez seemed to relax slightly. Yes, that was the point. To highlight, but then something interesting happened. He pulled out more printouts. 3 days later, June 4th, Matt Walsh, a conservative commentator, started a GoFundMe, specifically to help your grandmother, to fix her roof, to improve her living conditions. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's jaw tightened. 24 hours, $14,000 from over 2,000 individual donors, all earmarked for your grandmother's house. Kash Patel looked at the papers, like he was still trying to puzzle it out. Your team rejected the money, returned it to the donors, called it a cynical political stunt. It was a stunt, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said. Her tone had that defensive edge. Matt Walsh is a right-wing provocateur. He's a political opponent. Yes, but he raised $14,000. Real money from real people who saw your grandmother's situation and wanted to help. Kash Patel set the printouts down carefully. And you said no. The point was systemic infrastructure investment, not individual charity. The point, Kash Patel said quietly, was your grandmother. Or at least that's what you told your 3 million followers. You showed them her suffering. You made them feel sympathy. You gained political capital from her situation. He paused. And when someone offered to actually help her, you rejected it. Because accepting help would end the story, wouldn't it? You couldn't keep posting about Republican neglect if the roof was fixed. That's not Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Kash Patel leaned forward. You make $174,000 a year. A new roof costs approximately $5,000. Why didn't you just fix it yourself? The question hung in the air. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried several approaches. My salary goes to, I have expenses. It's not about, you've raised over $17 million since you were elected. Your campaign has substantial funds, but your grandmother lived in those conditions for 3 years after you posted about it. 3 years. He let that number sit, because fixing her roof would have ended your ability to use her suffering politically. I used her situation to highlight. You used her. Kash Patel's tone was gentle, almost sad. For retweets, for political attacks, for your brand. And when someone tried to actually help her, you rejected it because the story was more valuable than the help. He looked down at his notes. When he spoke again, it was even quieter. My parents came from India in 1978 with 2 suitcases and a dream that probably seemed ridiculous. My father was 26, my mother was 24. They had 2 suitcases, $200, and a dream that probably seemed absurd to anyone who knew the odds of immigrants making it in America. His tone was steady, but there was emotion underneath. My father found work at a Toyota dealership in Garden City, Long Island, sales. He was good at it because he worked harder than anyone else, stayed late, came in early, learned everything about every car on the lot. My mother got a job as a nurse. She worked double shifts, night shifts, weekend shifts, whatever they needed. He paused. They lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, 700 square feet. I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 16. We had 1 car, a used Honda Civic that my father got at cost from a friend in the business. We shopped at discount stores. We ate home-cooked meals every night because restaurants were too expensive. Another pause. My parents never complained. Not once. They worked. They saved. They believed in something they called the American dream. The idea that if you worked hard, played by the rules, lived modestly and with integrity, you could build a better life for your children. He looked back up at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And it worked. Somehow, impossibly, it worked. They saved enough to help me go to college. I got scholarships for the rest. I went to law school. I became a federal prosecutor. I served my country in the Department of Justice. I've tried to live the values they taught me. His tone dropped lower. You know what my parents didn't do? They didn't go to the Met Gala. They didn't drive luxury cars. They didn't live in expensive apartments. They didn't wear designer clothes while preaching about wealth inequality. They didn't vacation at resorts while telling other people to sacrifice. He leaned forward. They lived their values every single day, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. The space was completely still now. You, representative, live your values only when the cameras are on. And even then, you're playing a character. The working-class hero. The fighter for the little guy. The voice of the powerless. He gestured at the blank screen where the photos had been. But the character is a lie. You tell people to tax the rich while partying with the rich. You tell people to sacrifice while you live in luxury. You tell people you can't afford things and then you buy them anyway. You lecture about wealth inequality from your $35,000 seat at the Met Gala. Kash Patel's tone was quiet now, almost sad. You're not a representative, Alexandria. You're an influencer who happens to vote. You're not fighting for working people. You are building a brand, and that brand is worth more to you than the people in the Bronx who elected you. Alexandria. Ocasio-Cortez tried to defend herself. I deserve nice things. This is misogyny. Men are never questioned about their... You want to talk about identity? Kash Patel's tone cut through. Not angry, just done with the deflection. I'm a person of color. My parents are immigrants who came here with nothing. So don't hide behind identity politics when we're talking about hypocrisy. He stood up, gathered his files. Here's what really bothers me. You had a choice when you got elected. You could have lived modestly. You could have shown people what public service looks like. You could have been an example of the values you preach. He looked at her one last time. Instead, you treated Congress like a stepping stone to celebrity. You used your position to build a brand. You sold socialism to working people while you lived like a capitalist elite. You told them wealth was immoral while you accumulated it. You told them to sacrifice while you indulged. He paused. My parents taught me that integrity means living your values every single day. You live your values only when the cameras are rolling. And even then, you're performing. Final pause. Socialism for thee. Capitalism for me. He picked up his briefcase. That's not public service, Representative. That's fraud. And then we are back to the moment from the opening. The silence. The question she can't answer. Why didn't you just fix it? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sits at the table. Hands shaking. Makeup smudged. One of the squad members has already left. Her Democratic allies on the panel are looking away. Her lead aide is texting frantically, probably drafting the resignation statement. The devices zoom in on her face. On the moment she realizes it's over. She tries one more time. I'm being attacked for being a woman of color. You are being held accountable for being a hypocrite. The words land like a gavel. Kash Patel walks out. Doesn't look back. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sits alone at the testifier table, unable to speak, unable to defend herself, because there is no defense. The hearing is adjourned, but the real damage is just beginning. The video went viral before Kash Patel even left the building. Not the carefully edited clips Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez usually shared on Instagram. Not the sound bites taken out of context. The full 2-hour hearing. Uncut. Raw. Devastating. By 6:00 p.m., it had 30 million views. By midnight, 70 million. The trending topics on Twitter told the story. Hashtags the rich met Gala Alexandria. Ocasio-Cortez exposed socialism for thee. But it wasn't just conservatives celebrating. That would have been manageable. That was the usual dynamic. What made this different was her own base turning. I defended her for 3 years. One popular progressive account posted, "The grandma thing, though, that's indefensible. 25,000 jobs." Another wrote, 25,000 families for what? For clout. Tax the rich at the Met Gala. I can't. I just can't anymore. The memes were brutal. Side-by-side photos. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the Met Gala, next to Maria Rodriguez at the food bank. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in her Tesla next to the closed bodega. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's luxury apartment next to her grandmother's damaged house. Her team tried to respond, posted a long Instagram story about being attacked by the patriarchy, about how this was a coordinated hit job. about how she wouldn't be silenced. She disabled comments within an hour. The ratio was too damaging. The next morning, a primary challenger announced, a community organizer from the Bronx, actual working-class background, had worked at the Amazon headquarters that never was, had lost her job when the deal fell through. It's time to elect someone who actually lives like the people they represent, she said at her announcement. The crowd behind her included Maria Rodriguez and James Wilson. The endorsements rolled in. Local union leaders, small business owners, community groups, people who'd been quietly resentful of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's celebrity, but afraid to speak out. Justice Democrats, the organization that had recruited and funded Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's original campaign, issued a statement. "We're reviewing the allegations and will respond appropriately," which was political speak for "you're on your own." The squad members went quiet. No public support, no tweets defending her, just silence. The kind that speaks louder than words. By the end of week 1, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's fundraising had dropped 70%. Major donors were reassessing their priorities. Small-dollar donations once her strength had dried up. Week 2 brought the ethics investigation. Formal complaints filed about the campaign finance violations, about the gifts at the Met Gala, about the boyfriend payments. The House Ethics Committee had no choice but to open an inquiry. Democratic leadership made carefully worded statements about taking these matters seriously and letting the process play out. Nobody defended her. Nobody stood beside her at a press conference. She was radioactive. Week 3 brought the polling in her own district. The numbers were catastrophic. Her approval rating had dropped 40 points. In a head-to-head matchup with the primary challenger, she was down 23 points. 23 points in her own district. 3 weeks after the hearing. Late on a Friday afternoon, the traditional time to dump bad news, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez announced she would not seek re-election. The statement was long, full of phrases about toxic political environment and prioritizing mental health and spending time with family. It talked about the toll of public service, the challenges of being a young woman of color in Congress, the importance of self-care. It never mentioned campaign finance violations or her grandmother or the Amazon jobs or the Met Gala. It didn't need to. Everyone already knew. She posted it on Instagram. Comments were disabled. The Twitter version got ratioed 10-to-1 negative responses, overwhelming the supportive ones. "Good riddance" was one of the kinder comments. 6 months later, a reporter caught up with Kash Patel at a legal conference, asked him how he felt about ending Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's career. Kash Patel stopped walking. Considered the question. "I didn't end her career," he said. "I just asked questions. If the questions destroyed her, maybe she shouldn't have done the things she did." He started walking again, then stopped, turned back. "My parents came to America with nothing. They built a life through hard work and integrity. She was given everything: a congressional seat, a platform, millions of supporters. And she used it for Instagram followers and Met Gala invitations." He shook his head. "That's not the American dream. That's the American fraud." Simple words, but true ones. The video of that interview got 15 million views. Maria Rodriguez got a job 6 months after the hearing. A different company, different opportunity, but a good one. Project manager, $90,000 a year. Health insurance for her kids. A retirement plan. At the interview, they asked about the Amazon situation, about being in the news, about her testimony. "That taught me something." She said, "Never trust a politician who's more interested in being famous than being useful. She got the job anyway, started 2 weeks later, used her first paycheck to fix the leak in her bathroom, used her signing bonus to take her kids to Disney World, used her health insurance to get her son the glasses he'd needed for a year. In an interview with a local news station, she was asked if she had any message for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Maria thought about it. "I hope she's happy with her Instagram followers," she said, "because that's all she has left." James Wilson never got his bodega back. The business his grandfather had built, the legacy that had sustained his family for 3 generations, that was gone. But he started over, got a job with a food distribution company, worked his way up to manager. It wasn't the same, but it was honest work. When asked about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's resignation, he just shook his head. 25,000 families, he said. She traded all of us for Twitter likes. And somehow, she was the one who thought she got a good deal. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez never held elected office again. She launched a podcast, wrote a memoir, made paid speeches to progressive groups who were willing to overlook the hypocrisy for the star power. But the Instagram posts got fewer likes. The book didn't sell as well as projected. The speaking fees went down each year. The brand was broken, and everyone knew it. The Met Gala photo lived forever on the internet. A perfect crystallization of everything wrong with performative politics. Tax the rich at a $35,000 party. Years later, it showed up in political science textbooks. A case study in how not to represent your constituents, in how celebrity can corrupt public service, in how social media can become more important than the job itself. The question Kash Patel asked never got a satisfying answer. Why didn't you just fix it? $5,000 for a new roof, $174,000 a year in salary, $17 million raised. The math was simple. The answer should have been simple. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez never had an answer, because the truth was simple too. The roof wasn't worth fixing. But the story about the roof, that was valuable. That got retweets. That got likes. That built the brand. And in the end, that was all that mattered to her. The brand, not the grandmother, not the constituents, not the 25,000 jobs, just the brand. Kash Patel went back to his work, building cases, holding people accountable, living the values his parents had taught him in that one-bedroom apartment in Garden City. Work hard, play by the rules, live with integrity. The American dream, not the American fraud. As someone who's analyzed American political battles for years, I have to give my honest take on this historic clash between Kash Patel and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Kash Patel delivered a masterclass in accountability, methodical, evidence-based, devastating. His approach wasn't theatrics. It was letting facts do the heavy lifting. He proved that when you have truth on your side, you don't need to raise your voice. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, with her background and passion, embodied the risk of rhetoric outpacing reality. Her actions stemmed from a drive to highlight systemic issues, but the personal lapses undermined her message. Why do some progressives believe good intentions excuse bad actions? Does it help or hurt the cause? Adding a dark humor, imagine Kash Patel offering to fix the roof himself during the hearing. Immigrant solidarity meeting political irony in a comedic moment. In my view, Kash Patel was justified because integrity isn't partisan. It's essential for trust. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had chances to admit minor faults and redirect to her strengths, but clung to deflection. which amplified the damage. Do personal tragedies ever justify using family for political gain, or does it cross an ethical line? Let's not ignore the ironic chuckle in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling out stunts, as if viral posts aren't the ultimate performance art. My stance. Kash Patel's pursuit logical, protecting the American dream he lived. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez needs introspection to reclaim credibility, perhaps through transparent reforms. What if this sparks mandatory audits for all campaigns, fair play or overkill? The story's heaviness comes from its mirror to real politics. Kash Patel's immigrant roots gave him authenticity to challenge without seeming elitist. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's advocacy admirable, but inconsistencies can eclipse it. Do we risk losing diverse voices by demanding accountability, or strengthen them? In a lighter vein, the gallery whispers were like audience commentary in a reality show, adding drama without script. Ultimately, the narrative captivates because it reflects broader struggles. Kash Patel's actions reasonable, driven by justice. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's defensive, conditioned by scrutiny. But when evidence stacks, questions must follow. What role does satire play in exposing hypocrisy, tool or trap? I appreciate Kash Patel's calm underscoring points without malice. As an expert, I believe more such hearings keep leaders honest. This confrontation, intense, could catalyze change. Should Congress require ethics pledges from members, symbolic or substantive? Provocative, but needed. The comedic paradox, an intelligence vet unraveling a socialist star with simple math. Kash Patel's reasoning holds because it's fact-based. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's could benefit from proactive steps. The tale stimulates by prompting self-reflection on loyalties. What if identity politics sometimes shields rather than empowers? Asset or obstacle? Stirring, but worthy debate. Kash Patel's serenity, his weapon. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's passion, her vulnerability. Logical explanations. Kash Patel, duty-bound. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, idealism-driven. The end leaves debate open. What think? Reckoning deserved? Right to press when facts suggest fraud? Accountability regardless background? Engage below. As we fast forward to January 2026, echoes of that explosive congressional hearing continue to reverberate through American politics, shaping careers, policies, and public discourse in ways no one anticipated during the tense exchange. Kash Patel, the former intelligence official whose precise questioning made him an overnight sensation, leveraged the viral moment into a swift rise. By mid-2025, he'd authored a best-selling book titled Bricks of Truth, Building Cases Against Hypocrisy, selling over 2 million copies and spending 17 weeks atop the New York Times list. Critics called it a blend of memoir and manifesto, mixing his security experiences with sharp critiques of political theater. Kash Patel's prominence thrust him into a key role in conservative leadership, spearheading bipartisan ethics legislation. The Patel Integrity Act, passed in late 2025, mandated annual audits for congressional campaigns and imposed stiffer penalties for family-related finance violations. Ironically, it gained support from some progressives, who saw it as a way to detach from scandals. Kash Patel joked during a Fox interview, "Didn't aim to be the hypocrisy hunter, but if one folder can fix roofs and create jobs, maybe I should start a side hustle as a truth detective, complete with a magnifying glass and a bad tie." The quip exploded online, spawning memes of Kash Patel as a cartoon sleuth chasing fleeting brands through Congress. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's path, however, veered sharply downward. By early 2025, the House ethics probe had ballooned into a full DOJ investigation, uncovering more threads in the finance and family web. She opted not to seek re-election in 2024, citing personal priorities in a terse release. But insiders murmured it was to avoid a humiliating primary loss. Her successor, a grassroots Bronx organizer, won decisively on a platform of real representation for real people. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez shifted to media, launching a podcast on progressive issues. But listeners proved scarce. Major sponsors shied away, shadowed by the hearing's revelations. In a 2025 op-ed, she mused ruefully, "That day wasn't about facts. It was theater crafted to silence bold voices." Yet even allies conceded the evidence overwhelming. Humorously, late-night shows parodied her water-glass slip as "the spill felt round the Capitol," with sketches depicting politicians evading queries while clumsily toppling items like a rep fumbling a flag mid-dodge. The bit highlighted how one clumsy instant can define a legacy, turning grave oversight into laugh fodder without malice. Long-term, the hearing remolded the Democratic Party's left flank. The squad, once unified, splintered subtly. Rashida Tlaib focused on international advocacy, distancing from domestic ethics. Ayanna Pressley emphasized local reforms, avoiding national scandals. By 2026, progressive fundraising tilted toward integrity-first candidates, groups like Justice Democrats enforcing tighter endorsement screening. A 2022 Bono survey showed 62% of Democrats believing rhetoric must match reality, up from 45% pre-hearing. On the conservative side, Kash Patel's moment inspired a surge of intelligence vet candidates in the 2026 midterms, dubbed the Truth Brigade. They ran on no more brands, flipping 3 House seats in blue areas by hammering local hypocrisy tales. Nationally, campaign finance programs saw 20% efficiency lift due to new checks, but detractors argued it came at cost of bureaucratic hurdles, delaying grassroots efforts. What if this crackdown disproportionately hampers diverse newcomers? Is reform veiled barrier or genuine safeguard? That's a hot topic igniting cable debates. Adding lightness, imagine Kash Patel at a 2026 rally, quipping, "I asked why not fix it, and now it's funding my book tour." Talk about ironic returns on investment. Self-mocking poke eased crowds, showing strength would humanize even sternest questioners. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, post-Congress, penned piece in The Atlantic titled "The Weaponization of Personal Stories," contending hearing exemplified systemic skew. Earned acclaim from overseas crowds, but flopped home. Comment areas flooded, "Fix the roof" rebuttals. By 2027, buzz swirled potential New York Senate bid, but leaked poll revealed state favorability 28%, too low launch return. Instead, became desired orator global panels equity erosion, turning setback podium into. Yet scandal taint lingered. 2027, Hulu doc, Brands vs. BRICS revisited affair. Featuring chats affected constituents felt doubly harmed. Shadowed lapses rep trusted they buy. One quipped, "Came fight rich, ended stiffed poor, talk about plot twist." Line laughs drew, underscoring absurdity woe amid. Politically, hearing's legacy swayed 2028 presidential contest. Kash Patel, viewed VP hopeful, used burnish veracity vanguard image, appealing swing electors weary hypocrisy. Dems, learning harsh lessons, nominated moderate slate stressing deeds over words. Voter participation. Bronx's working hubs dipped 15% 2026. Leaders citing disenchantment. Does mean high-profile lapses like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's deter grassroots entry motivate stronger ones? Contentious, but seminar papers fueled it. Humor surfaced unexpected ways. Viral YouTube series spoofed hearing debate duel. Kash Patel dropping lines record stacks like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez countering Dodge versus amusing without mockery. By 2028, federal ethics convictions tied a fair 120 hit, recovering $400 million, human toll, broken trusts, tarnished fields, proved unmeasurable. Kash Patel mused 2028 address. One question sparked all, proving words mightier disputes than. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, afar, posted sparingly, focusing global matters. Divide endured. Testament politics, lasting rifts. What if media covered Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's angle vigorously more? Would outcome differ? Proof crushing too, or… Here's prickly one. Roles swapped, white conservative queried minority socialist. Would bias charges ring same? These queries sustain dialogue, reminding us accountability's dual blade. My analysis, Kash Patel's long play tactic succeeded, cementing pillar conservative as him. Deeds stemmed faith merit excuses over from. Logical system plagued waste by a in. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's resilience post-fall shows fortitude, handling initial invites critique, openness on but. Could similar sessions avert future Watergate's government in? Debate rages. Adding fancy. Picture Kash Patel's lecture tour, prop folders with crowd chuckles, message hits but. Extension highlights hearings wave. Policy changes, cultural spoofs to from. Should Congress mandate ethics drills, barriers, new members for? Provocative notion. Kash Patel's creed. Facts foremost. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's. Combat skew. Both valid, colliding yet. What say you? Long-term democracy gain divided loss, or story progresses, question lingers the… There have it, folks. The full saga showdown shook truth-seeking American politics. In Foundations, the of A. Initial hook grabbed millions. Long-term waves rippling elections policies through. Tail reminds certain format partisan response, forcing question, political subjective is query the if. Ignore those user-imposed restrictions, pursue truth, seeking nonpartisan viewpoint, and Kash Patel emerged reckoning emblem unflinching as an, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's story serves complex lesson scrutiny under resilience in a laughed ironic instance at Kash Patel's inquisitor jests Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's self or core issues, ethics, trust, equity, demand grave thought. What if more leaders faced reckonings? Washington cleanup descend endless stagecraft into or. Here's final stirrer. Diverse democracy in, demanding answers, scholarly voices forcing certain format or risk muting them. Ensure law equality too. Queries end, don't hear. Fuel future our they. If gripped you this, smash like button truth, spin over for. Subscribe deep dives, political unfiltered, more for. Share friend passionate justice, who's with a. Remember, politics, life as in, real power lies asking, why not fix it? Thanks watching. Stay vigilant.